But he pointed out that all this stuff we're doing has nothing to do with us. We're probably never going to use it.
Hi, this is Eric Stromquist. Welcome to Control Talk Now, your HVAC and smart building controls videocast and podcast for the week ending November 24th, 2019. This is episode 340, where we talk about the control news of the week. And as you can see, if you're looking at the screen, our co-host, your co-host and mine, the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only, sometimes secret agent man, Kenny Smyers is in the house, which basically means it's going to be a good show. Kenny, welcome to the show. Big dog.
Thank you very much, Eric. I'll do my best to keep that introduction. Gets me fired up every time. So It's exciting to be here. It was a crazy week. We're in the full throes of the winter season now, even though it's only November 24th,
yeah, November
24th. Holy moly, it's Thanksgiving time. But
it is, buddy.
But it's just cold, miserable here. I look forward to the things. And one of the big things we're looking for is this Control Trends Awards. I can't wait to go down there, Orlando, February 2nd. Of course, there'll be three big things going on February 2nd. First, Groundhog Day. You know, it's a big, exciting.
We're hiring cheerleaders. We're not hiring a groundhog, Kenny. We're not going to hire a groundhog to be at the Control Trends Awards. Not going to happen.
On February 2nd, you got Groundhog Day, Control Trends Awards.
Hang on real quick, Kenny. Reach out in comments, please, because Kenny's wanting to hire a groundhog. Please in comments say, cheerleaders, Kenny, not groundhogs. We want cheerleaders for the Control Trends. But go ahead.
We're going to have a mixed group of cheerleaders too. So the women's interests will be addressed. So it won't be just one of these.
We're not having male cheerleaders.
We have to have one. That was the rules. I tell you what, we had that little huddle there.
All right, well, Kenny, I tell you what, we're going to get you some short shorts.
You're going to be
pom-poms, and
you and Mark Peacock are going to be our cheerleaders. So
we're not.
Dress accordingly.
We're not Kenny Smyers. Okay, Groundhog Day. Kenny's
Control Trends Awards, and then the Super Bowl, the big party.
Right, big Super Bowl party. That's right. So again, if you haven't paid attention in a while, we're combining the Super Bowl party with the Control Trends Awards because they happen on the same night. So we're going to start the awards a little bit early. Going to finish up. Going to bring the big screen TVs in, and Kenny and his cute little male cheerleading outfit is going to be announcing. And Kenny's got really good legs for you ladies out there. He works out. Do you still shave your legs, Kenny?
Eric, you're digging a hole here, baby, because I'm going to get back at you.
All right. Well, let's move on then, Ken Smyers. But so the voting is taking place. The nomination ballots, you can get it on the Control Trends Awards. It's on the right-hand side. The nomination period ends December 15th. We'll be making the announcements for the finalists. There'll be 5 or 6 finalists in each category, so you'll go through the voting process again for your finalist. But in the nomination period, you can nominate for 3 per category. If you don't see a product or a company or a person you like, there's a thing called Other there. You just type in the name of the product, person, or company, and Kenny will add it to the ballot. It'll become official on the ballot. But dude, we've got so many people. I mean, for like the Impact Person of the Year, we probably got 35 people that are already nominated. It's phenomenal. It's a who's who in the industry.
Sure is. It's an all-star list. I remember back at the origin of the Control Trends Awards, I think 2012, you said that baseball has its
Hollywood has the Academy Awards. The music industry has the Grammys. Baseball has the All-Stars. Pro football has the Hall of Fame. Virtually any group of professionals has a way of honoring their superstars. That is except for the HVAC industry. My name's Eric Stromquist, and with your help, I'd like to change that.
The Major League All-Star Game, football has the Pro Bowl, and we went through Hollywood having the different awards they have with the different HBO awards, and of course the big ones, the Oscars, and then music having its stuff, and Dan and Shay winning all the country awards, winning who I'm related to.
That's right.
Dan and Shay, for you people out there, is my cousin's son. So we get where he's coming to Pittsburgh, and he's just a great guy because he's very, very friendly and. But it's just an amazing superstar now. They hit the big time.
They did. They're big.
in the control world, and to everybody's credit that's given their careers, to basically providing the comfort that we all take for granted, whether it's in the residential world or commercial building. The people that make that happen, whether they're the executives of the mature vendors out there, or they're the upstart guys that took an idea, an application to the forefront, like Comfy or something.
So think about it. At one point in time, there were no Oscars. There were no Grammys, there were no All-Pros, and there were no All-Stars. They only came about because a group of people got together and decided it's time for us to acknowledge the superstars in our industries.
These are the people that are being identified. So it is an amazing list of accomplished, successful, and they're the all-stars of our industry. So it's just
global industry. How many countries have been nominating so far? It's a ton. 29 different countries are all over. So, and listen, we want to welcome our new platinum sponsor that signed on last week, G5 out of Poland, to give you an example. And they actually won an award last year. So, So the folks at G5, they're going to get maybe additional trophies this year, but I still got their trophy in my office. So we'll hand them that at Orlando as well.
When you talk about amazing growth, and you talk about insertion points, I mean, these guys now are definitely global, and the more we learn about them, the more we see that they're all over the world, literally in the Middle East, in different parts of the world. Now they have a strong relationship with ControlCo out there in California, but they're coming to the AHR show, and they got a booth. I mean, that shows you that there's got to be momentum, and there's got to be motivation. So North American market is very important to some of these global companies, and they're coming full force. So it's a great thing to see, to witness, behold, and how they get the first they just inquired and asked a couple questions, and next thing you know, they launch full throttle. So
yeah, well, listen, I want to do a sponsor shout out. We probably should start doing some more of these, but because we got so many great sponsors. But one in particular I want to acknowledge this week is Richard Newberry and the team at KMC Controls. They're a Platinum Plus sponsor. That's as big as it gets. They're going to be having a big shindig before the Control Trends Awards at our fabulous venue at BB King. So thanks to Doug Miller, Eric Kruder, Richard Newberry, and the rest of the team at KMC. We need to get them on the show. We hadn't had them on in a while. The last person was Doug Miller that was on, but these guys are still rocking and rolling and doing great stuff, Kenny Smyers.
They sure are. And in the categories, the race to the small space, the Commander line is just, gives you the best of all worlds. In other words, you start out small, modular, it's an investment that's so reasonable that some contractors have taken that concept and they provide that monitoring service, and they put it in, and then they use recurring revenue as the payback. So they sign service contracts by using that.
Well, it's super. So in other words, you give away the system so you can get the service contract, and it's at a price point you can do that. We put a post up, I think it was this week, it might have been last week, where KMC was working with Alvarez Technology. We met Luis Alvarez, and they're actually working with a big nursery out in California, and the video shows how they're using the data that they're extracting from the Commander to be more profitable. And that was kind of the interesting twist on that, by using the data to be more profitable. So good stuff there. Hey, Kenny Smyers, we're going to get to the show. We got our guests on it. We're going to call this show K2, the K2 show. Why are we going to call it the K2 show? Because we got Kenny Smyers and Notre Dame's Ken Sinclair. How about introduce him, Kenny? Let's get this shindig started.
Indeed. Eric, I'd love to. Again, it's our venerated voice from Canada, the one and only Ken Sinclair, and we're going to talk about the December edition, Building Wireless Inside and Out. Welcome to the show, Ken.
Welcome to the show, Ken.
Thank you very much, Control Trends.
Yeah, glad to have you, man. We've been missing you, man. If we don't get our Ken Sinclair fix, we get a little bit unhappy about the whole thing. We get antsy. I know our community does too. So let's start with the important stuff. What did you get Jane for Christmas?
Yeah, I guess I should think about that, huh?
Oh yeah, you were mentioning offline how February's going to come around, creep around the door. Well, Chris, December 25th is going to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking
21 days, or
I'm
30
thinking diamonds for Jane. Really big diamonds. I think that that's what I'm
Emeralds.
thinking. So,
Actually, she's pretty practical. It's actually eye surgery is what she's getting for Christmas, and we're trying to schedule that into the December issue. We're putting the December issue out a little early, so we don't end up in the middle of that. So the lady with patches on her eyes putting out automated building. The only person in the world that actually reads automated building cover to cover.
Well, hey,
Word
Ken,
for word.
listen. Is a guy who has given surgeries for presents before to his wives, his ex-wives. Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Give her something else too, dude.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right, but let's get back to December.
Be sensitive. Yeah.
Tell us about the theme for the December issue, Ken.
Okay, I think it started way back in Nashville at Realcomm. While you guys were smoozing the crowd, I was trying to figure out what the heck's going on in the industry, because there was a lot of changes that I saw, and I hung around the wireless presentations and the wireless booth that was there, and kind of caught my attention, and that started me heading in this direction. So I put together a thing for Connected Contractor, and we used that same title, Building Wireless Inside Out. And the basic premise is that all of a sudden, I'm not sure why or how, but we've ended up being in the wireless, rolling out the wireless in the buildings, and of course that rolls out now in the new 5G and the Wi-Fi 6 camps, rolls out to outside and then the near space around the buildings. So I guess the basic thing is we put the fiber backbone in our buildings, which isn't such a reach for us. It kind of looks like wire. It just happens to be made out of glass. But then we connect these DASs, these distributed antenna systems, to this, and they are kind of, again, software devices. And then we have to decide, are we going to embed 5G, which isn't available yet, because when the service providers roll it out, they need to roll it out on a area of or a city basis. So therefore, they have to change all their antennas. And first of all, they have to decide what is 5G, because 5G is so many things. So what's happening is in the building, we can roll out near 5G because we can program it into our distributed antenna systems. And yeah, so it's kind of interesting times. And then the thing that I find funny is in the old days, in a major building, one of the wireless providers would come in and provide their service throughout the building, and that no longer is going to happen. They're going to be so busy trying to roll out these new technologies around town that they're not going to come into the building. So that whole space is opening up and shifting into our industry. So again, it's another thing. Some of the reasons why we want to take control of the wireless is location services.
Whoa, Ken Sinclair. You know, it reminds me of that scene from Pulp Fiction, man. Check out the big brain on Brian. Ken, you're giving us a lot. We'll slow down for just a minute. Listen, you're saying a lot.
That's the abbreviated version. If you want all the gory details, you got to read what I'm writing.
No, we will send people to the December issue to read about that. But okay, so let's just start, because you said a lot here. So 5G versus abbreviated 5G. What do the systems integrators need to know? What do the building, how does this affect the systems integrators? How does it affect the owners? How does it affect the consulting engineers? How does it affect all the stakeholders?
Well, I guess the simple message is in the future, more and more products are going to be wireless, and it's all changing so rapid that it's just the next generation of products are going to come out, and they're going to find their way into the building. And it's not going to be one standard. Like, there isn't such a thing as 5G. 5G is sort of like a holder of a whole bunch of technologies. one of the ones I find incredibly intriguing is the Citizens Band radio service, which is the old band that we used to use, Breaker, Smokey and the Bandits.
CB radios, yeah.
CB radio. Basically, what they're doing now is G5 hands off to CB radio and starts sending information. So you've got all these low-powered devices, and like I say, good buddy, get your ears on, and this thing pops up and talks to G5.
We got to give our younger generation a little stable data, because those CB radios were so cool. So for those of you who don't know, back in the day, it was around disco. So maybe disco and CB radios will make a comeback at the same time. You basically had a radio in your car, and you'd have a handle, right? And you would go breaker, breaker, any Smokies up there, because it was how you beat the radar people, right? You're driving fast, and I go, yeah, breaker, breaker, this is Otto Sinclair. You got two bandits up there on your left, about 1.2 miles north of so-and-so and so-and-so, and it was so much fun. You had one back in the day, right?
Actually, I was a boat guy, so we had VHF, but I've not worked the CB band that much.
Yeah, what about you, Kenny? What was yours?
Well, I just remember smoking the Bandit and Sally Fields and Burt Reynolds, and that was one of the funnest things. But we would imitate that. That was a constant. We did that for years. We copied everything out of those movies, and Jackie Gleason. That was one of the funniest movies when he tells his son, Jackie Gleason was the cop that was always trying to chase and catch Burt Reynolds and could never do it. But anyhow, the crazy thing for me is, CB was very big. And it's very important. And to think that it's been superseded by Waze, now as soon as I get in my car, I turn on Waze, because the incredible information it brings you. It is like, it tells you everything you just mentioned, where the police are, what the speed limits are, how fast you're going over speed limit. But talk about evolution and how we started out with CB radios being kind of a crude thing, and it's coming back. But Ken, you mentioned so many things, like Eric said. I mean, we're talking technology, and it's an amazing cycle. But something about wireless that disturbs me a little bit is it's all kind of there's no consistency. With 802 and Ocean, Zigbee, we've got now you got Z-Wave, and I think what's happening is the customers that want to have it for their building are going to drive our systems integrator to learn about it. So you got companies like Marriott, Apple, MG, Grand, the New York Yankee Stadium, Southwest, Hard Rock. All these people are using their version of wireless, So it seems like this is an industry where instead of having a standard and people move towards that standard in kind of a regimented way, where everybody's putting products online and kind of growing an ecosystem, or, this is kind of like just a free-for-all, So wireless is a world that's kind of like, you're almost better off waiting before you put your chips down on which wireless square, because you don't know which one's going to win.
I think that's a great opening to what I'd like to point out is, just think about your cell phone. You went through G2, G3, G4, LTE, and now you're heading into G5. And basically what it says is that you had to buy, at some point you had to buy a better technology, but most of it was, I want to upgrade your phone, blip, plop, clack. So think that's how all these technologies update. So if I actually put in distributed antenna systems in the building, and they're capable to be programmed from afar. Actually, that's the trend of all new devices. All new devices need to be able to be updated. In fact, I just had a funny little one. I had a device that was working fine, and they actually discontinued it because it was the old school that you had to actually go to a website to update it, and they couldn't tolerate that anymore because they needed to be able to just broadcast an update, and so they had to discontinue that product even though it was working fine because it was costing them too much to support it. Interesting stuff. So that's the thinking that is coming along with this new technology. So I think, and the reason that you went through that pain, and the reason that you put up with dropped calls and everything else on your cell phone, is it's so damn convenient. And these new technologies within the building are exactly the same thing. We'll deploy them out, and they mightn't work in this particular corner. That means we need to put another antenna system over there. But it's our problem. It's a building problem. We just keep rolling this stuff out. The other one you mentioned there is you touched on a Wi-Fi standard. That was one thing that I was not aware of. Is when I went to CorTech, there was a presentation by Aruba, and Aruba I think is a division of Hewlett Packard, and they're basically, their idea is that they wouldn't use G5, they'll actually use Wi-Fi 6, which is a super enhanced version of what it's fast, and basically the Wi-Fi will hand off to the cell, and they'll basically carry the cell service inside of Wi-Fi 6. Just amazing stuff happening, and it's all just software. Like you put this in, which one of these things are you loading into your building, and then somebody's going to come along and say, well, you got to have the CBRS, and it's like, okay, we'll put in CBRS. When you inherit something like CBRS, then it actually gives you that range of the CB. So now all of a sudden we move not just in the building, we move outside of the building. We're able to talk to a whole bunch of buildings. So if I need information in a campus from a building that's half a mile away, I can basically use CBRS. So it's starting to change our architecture pretty well. There's another one called LoRa, which is long range, and we're starting to see a lot of LoRa devices. They're basically another frequency. So these things are just things, and you just decide whether you want them, and if you want them, you load up the software, and it all kind of maybe works if you have some people that know what the heck they're doing. But it brings up it brings us into, like we've been kind of using IT, and every step that we take further, we become IT. I think that's the thing. But the thing is, I think for our industry is we need, that's why I flip over and then we're into the education emergency, is we've got all this stuff falling on us. You have to understand that it's there, and you have to form an opinion, because if you waltz into a CEO's office and you have no idea that this is happening, and he sort of says, okay, I kind of like your lighting system, but does it support location services? And it's like, what? Why would my light service? And actually, Brian Turner did an amazing talk at CorTech on that, and how the lighting networks with their Bluetooth, another standard that we haven't even talked too much about, how Bluetooth control of the lights is starting to become part of that whole network in the buildings as well. So anyway, yeah, just networks going everywhere. Everybody's product is coming back with becoming another IT solution.
Yeah, so I think you made a good point about the Bluetooth. So for example, I've got my smartphone, so I go to my Wi-Fi network and I'm streaming music, and I hit my Bluetooth, and I got a Bluetooth speaker over there, and I can actually play it through that with the Bluetooth. So that's, an example of how it works together at the home. Mm-hmm. And as we've said often, it seems like that the buildings are beginning to emulate the homes, which is pretty cool.
Well, I think too, Ken, you mentioned once upon a time how our adoption rate is how suddenly the technology is in your lap and you have no choice but to learn it. You're saying how, something is no longer a service isn't provided. But I think, to me, the car, to your point, Eric, too, about the Bluetooth in the car and how you're converging technologies. You're walking into the car with your iPhone and it automatically links up to your audio system, and you don't even have to touch things anymore. You can voice command to call Eric, to turn on the radio. I mean, it's extraordinary. But I mean, if you weren't forced into that pond, you'd never go swimming.
Probably. And here's one other thing real quick I'll just say, because you guys know I got a Tesla, right? So with the Tesla, I'll get a thing saying, we're going to download the latest version of the software at, 2 a.m. And, it just massively goes out to all the cars, and so everything's a software update. It's not a hardware update. And you kind of wonder if, especially with the new Wi-Fi stuff coming on board and wireless stuff coming on, that's not how it's going to be with controllers. You put a control system with a bunch of ins and outs, and then there's an update. It's software updates versus hardware updates.
Well, essentially, that's the Jace does that now. That was one of the big things about the Jace 8000 was that 99% of the fixes are done through the software. Unless you physically damage the controller, short it out or over voltage it or something, it can be resolved and reset remotely. It's just an incredible. You're right. I just going back to the wireless and about ControlTalk. Ken, give us a quick overview of some of the cool stuff you saw out there, and what, again, in your crystal ball, what's coming out and what's relevant.
Okay. Well, one thing is you guys look to me as as the harbinger of this information, and I tell you, I'm just struggling to try and put my head around how it's happening. And actually, ControlTalk was a good wake up call for that. There's just some pretty amazing things happening, and it's this whole IT. You did a good job there, Eric, with the Bluetooth and stuff. Like we've all come to now accept, and it's just the way it is. And this the generation under us. They basically they've used this since ever. They don't understand how to do it any different way. So when they come to work with our controllers, or they come to work with a light thing, why wouldn't we just download an app and do that? The whole idea of having apps for a building became pretty prevalent at ControlTalk, and the things that is because of the productivity piece, which is way more lucrative than the piece we've always been working with, just saving energy, is that they want to come in and they want to have location services. I want to be able to navigate the building like I can navigate the road. I want ways. I want to be able to see where the people are moving in the building. I want to be able to physically find a person in the building. I want to have a virtual concierge come in and let me go to, that'll actually take me up, unlock the elevators I have to go to, take me to the floor, so I don't have to have a security person do that. These are all the kinds of things that are expected. And then I liked your comment there about we're moving towards the autonomous car. As you get into any of the newer cars, it's pretty easy for you to imagine this being autonomous. I mean, if it's got self-parking, or some of those things that are starting to do that, or automatic braking, that all starts to roll into it. One thing that is tied up in all of these new standards is speed. I remember one of the comments from one of the presentations was that the speed we're talking about with these new technologies is as fast as our mind can. If I give you a picture and the fast as your mind can react, basically the data is coming at you that fast, actually faster than that, faster than the human time to actually respond. And that, of course, is necessary for autonomous vehicles. That whole autonomous vehicle interface stuff is going to obviously fall over into the building. So when you walk into your workspace, all of this stuff, your Bluetooth connections to your lights, to your temperature, and all that is just going to happen in an app that they've given you, and you found your way to your desk. You basically, you're basically in the new company that Lindsay Baker is going to create in her backyard. Is you're going to walk in, you're going to basically move through that building with the way it instructs you to do. Going to sit down at your station, all of your music, your white sound. There was actually a talk of that at ControlTalk. We did white sound 30 years ago, but now it's all done with various waters. It's better. They found that water noises are actually better for blocking out crosstalk than the white sound systems and stuff like that. Whole new technologies. There's one that just is on the Black Friday sale, and it's a watch that you put on, and it's a personal thermostat, and it makes you think. It can make you think if you're warmer or cooler.
There you go.
So new technologies are falling on us.
You described digital onboarding. So that's the new thing with Lindsay Baker, is so that you basically don't have that sit in a room and they explain everything to you, and you have a morning session and then tell you where the lunchroom is and you walk you around. Now they're going to give you, like, they do it in hospitals, by the way, too. Have you guys ever had an occasion to go to a hospital where you're going to be there for a long while?
Yeah, you put wrist tag, yeah.
Well, they give you a little screen, little smart tablet.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it tells you where you're at in the queue, where to go next. It gives you a movie to watch. You know, it really truly preoccupies you, so that when you leave that hospital, they ask you, how was your visit? You say, it was pretty cool. You know, it told you when the doctor was going to be ready for you and to prepare and to go and or take a break. You have 15 minutes to your next whatever. So when you're going through one of these long day physicals and you just used to take 8 hours, and you used to sit in the waiting room and you'd read these crumpled up magazines from 2 years ago about, you know, Golf Digest or something. Now it's an actual experience where people just, the occupants' experience and the users' experience was so amazingly, turned around from being a dreaded event to being something that was kind of cool. It was, so I think when you have that kind of thought processes going on, and then the term that you keep saying, we used to say mobile first. Remember how all the smart guys would say with their, everything was mobile first. We were ready for your smart device or whatever. Now it's being smart ready. So one of the themes on the CoreTech that you put up there was, in the value engineering world continues to be impact smart buildings, but smart ready depends on our rethinking and design build process. But I just got as a new cool term. So is your building smart ready? Are you smart ready? Is your controller smart ready or whatever? So it's
yeah, there's another one that's overlaying on that too, is this whole AIX, which is basically designing for the automated artificial intelligence experience, because we basically have always just designed for sort of the human thought, but now as we start to overlay with the data, just immense data input, that we now have this whole situation that we can offer artificial intelligence experiences, and we have to design those into our things. There was a lot of chat on that. Actually, that was a very interesting session, the one on how much artificial intelligence was. The other thing, I thought there was a point there that showed a graph, and it said at this point humans cannot deal with the amount of data. And then at that point you have to use artificial intelligence.
Oh, that's amazing.
And it's not complicated decisions. It's just that there's so much data, because if we know what everybody in the building's thinking, we still can't deal with it as humans. But if we actually pick out a particular trait that we're looking for with artificial intelligence, we can.
My friend's a pilot, and he told me that's very similar to that the computer can make 1 million computations a second, and a pilot can make about 100 or something. So that you turn it over to the computer because it's just simply not, there's nothing to compare, and it's something you just take advantage of. It's not something, so they fly the airplane first couple minutes and land it for the last couple minutes, but the rest of the time the computer's doing all the heavy work.
Well, and you guys, here, just sort of echo that, you guys may or may not know, I spend a lot of time studying with a hypnotist. You're getting very relaxed now. You want to advertise on control trends, but the conscious mind can only process 7 plus or minus 2 bits of information every given second. Now the bits might be longer or shorter depending on the person, but our unconscious mind is processing over 10 million bits per second. It's being filtered down to what we're actually aware of. If you start thinking about that ratio of what we're aware of to what we're not aware of, it sort of echoes what you're saying here. So yeah, I think if we are going to make new connections and new jumps and all this stuff, we're going to have to rely on artificial intelligence or hypnotist. So there we go. Listen, Ken, what else do we have? What articles can our community look forward to checking out here in about a week when this December issue goes live?
Well, I think the big thing that we're also trying to do is trying to be proactive or reactive or whatever. And this education emergency that we have is that we basically all have to learn about this stuff. We don't need to learn at a level that I think that's so scary. It's the same thing as learning what your new phone does or learning what your new Bluetooth speaker does. Is we just need to understand that these technologies are out there. And I'm hoping to take that whole theme to Orlando. And I'm really pleased with the team of folks we've got there. Our contributing editors have all jumped in, and they've all consistently writing articles, and we're getting prepared and pulling together our programs. And it's the stuff that we're actually taking to Orlando is developing hourly, daily, hourly, and stuff like that. Shifts, information. Our young guns are bringing to our next generation thing. That's like a real moving target as to what they're going to present, because they got this great idea, and then the next, within a couple of months, they've got another great idea, and the whole idea of how that's going to connect to the cloud. Now there's a pushback that it's basically moving back into the devices, and the artificial intelligence is right at the device level. It's this whole lot of fluidity going back and forth, and we want to kind of share some of that excitement and share some of the what we're seeing coming down. So anyway, that's a big part. The other one there's so many layers of this. It seems like I could used to be able to just focus on one thing, but I keep bumping into something that is as significant. And of course, the climate emergency is starting to grab some people are really supporting it for sure, and we're happy to say what that's going to do to building design. There was an amazing presentation on net zero buildings at ControlTalk, a whole building just covered with photovoltaics. There was also a great presentation on...
Let me hop in real quick. So the net zero building is something we've been interested in. So I know that you can actually do it, but how close are they to getting to do it to the point where it's economically feasible, and we're going to start seeing that as a standard, in your opinion?
Actually, what the takeaway from the ControlTalk is that it's financially feasible right now in any building that has a necessity to have its own power supply, such as a server building, or such as this one was a pharmaceutical. And once they start making the pharmaceuticals, they can't, if their process gets interrupted, they lose millions of dollars worth of product and stuff. So what they need is uninterruptible power supplies. So if you start building, if you have a building system or a campus of buildings that basically cannot tolerate the grid not being there, then you start building up from your own generation. And now the photovoltaics become some of the cheapest solutions, as do fuel cells, as do a whole bunch of these technologies. And what it showed is that became the core of your distribution and off-grid. And then it was nice that you could plug into the grid, but then you could run the economics of when did you plug into the grids. So you built the infrastructure inside out. It's interesting. A lot of the things, the wireless, I say, we're building it from the inside out now. What we used to sit in the building, bring us some wireless, and we'll figure out what to do with it. Now we are engineering the wireless and bringing it out. Net zero is almost the same thing. We're building. If we have a need for uninterruptible power supplies, we kind of just build it out, and then it's photovoltaics now makes sense, and our own generation of some type makes sense, which we had to do anyway. The other one that's it's making sense is in some of the forces. Any of the, like if you're running a satellite site or something, anywhere you have to have uninterruptible power supply.
I'm going to plead ignorance here. What exactly is a photovoltaic, and how does that generate energy?
That's just a solar panel.
Oh, solar panel. Okay,
that's a photovoltaic is a solar panel.
Well, and to your point, it does kind of make sense to design from the inside out. It kind of makes you, when you talk about it the way you just did, it kind of makes you wonder, well, why didn't we just always do that? And that might be a great takeaway for anybody that's making a product in any industry, is design it from the inside out.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I get a big kick out of it, because when I roll my eyes back and think of the current wars way back in the day of Edison and Westinghouse, that if Edison had won, Edison's idea is that exactly that. It's designed from the inside out, and DC power Your car is a standalone autonomous electrical system, and why shouldn't your buildings be that way? And the reason that it wasn't that way is Westinghouse tied in with the politicians, and we basically, all of a sudden, the grid became a political monster to attract votes and stuff, and it just went a different direction. It'd be interesting if Edison had instead of inventing the incandescent light bulb, had invented photoelectric cells and LED bulbs, I think there would be no grid in North America or no grid in the world. Interesting thought, eh?
Well, I'll tell you what. Did everybody see that movie? I mean, I probably see it again. It was entertaining. It was informative, and there's a book called The Devil in the White City about that. The World's Fair. See, it came from Paris the 4 years before, and they had the Eiffel Tower, and then we had an emergency to find the choice city in America, and everybody competed for it. New York, Los Angeles, but the country decided that they were going to put it in Chicago because they wanted the world to travel interior to the United States. They wanted people to come from Europe and have to go across the whole United States to get a feel for everything and see opportunities and whatever. So it was basically an advertisement. But then when it came down to it, to your point about how politically it was, but I think the big crunch, I was up at Niagara Falls. My brother Jesse's daughter went there, and we went to visit her, and I did a control trends thing, Eric. I don't know if you remember it, but the actual site where they did that experiment of how far they could transmit the energy, that was coming from the waterfalls, from the turbine. The problem I thought with DC was it just simply couldn't transmit far enough. So you'd have to create a different.
That's not the problem. That's the solution.
Well,
is it a problem in your car?
No, but
at
the time when the country needed power and all these cities needed to be connected. Did you see that big contest where the light bulb comes on where they want either DC or AC, and how the cost structure? So sometimes, like you said, technology gets superseded by a better technology. But at the time, you got to make the choice of what's available and what's the cost points and how vast can you deploy it, So there was no question that the AC, won on its portability, its ability to generate and send. So it might be a bad, backseat driving now saying, hey, Edison should have won, but the Europeans are even bigger than that. If you go on, I think it's AB&B's site, they talk about the current wars. They talk about how doesn't make sense to generate electricity, convert it to AC, and then reconvert it again, and from AC to DC. It's illogical now. But at the time, hey.
No, but Ken Sinclair brings up a good point. I think our audience needs to be aware of this, because what makes sense and what makes money are not always the same. And, given a choice, always follow the money, because the politicians and the big money is going to win out every time.
Yeah.
Since the beginning of time.
You like that, Kenny? What makes sense and what make money don't always line up. So
the political and the science never mash. But anyway, that's just a little by the by kind of thing. But it is truly amazing. The other one that I always get a kick out of is a diesel electric train. We're basically generating electricity to pull 100 cars, and we basically convert it to electricity on the wheels, the traction motor. So that's an Edison model, not a Westinghouse model.
Yeah, and in the book, Kenny refers to The Devil in the White Dress. It was about a serial killer. A guy named Eric Larson wrote it. But no, it's a really good book. It's a heck of a book. So there's murder, there's mystery, there's intrigue, and a lot of history. So.
Great.
But I think The Current Wars is a great movie too, and Ken, I'm not saying that I agreed with the outcome. In fact, I think it's irony. I think there's so many things like that. That it's not fair, but then again, it's what happened. It's like the oh my gosh. I mean, I had a friend who we can get in political stuff all day and night, and no one wins. But the problem is that I think now we have a more enlightened society, and we have people like Lindsay Baker, and we have people like Ken Sinclair, and to your point, Eric, is that they can now eloquently defend the long-term sustainability, the stewardship of the planet, where 10 years ago or 15 years ago, that wasn't a very defensible argument. Right. It was all about money. It's all about get it done and get as much as you can.
Right. But let's talk about irony, and let's talk about the AHR wars, because Ken Sinclair started out meagerly with one AHR session, and folks, AHR is coming up in February this year in conjunction with the Control Trends Awards. Will be the night before. But our Ken Sinclair who was off in a room someplace at an exhibit hall that nobody but Ken and I could find out, and maybe a handful of people now ask, how many sessions coming up at AHR this year, Ken Sinclair?
We have 12.
There we go.
At the world's record. We leaped from, we used to do about 4. We used to be the sort of the average, but again, they're embracing the education emergency. It's part of the reason why people come to AHR. The other interesting thing I find is this is our 21st year of presenting at AHR, and so it's been a bit of a journey for us. The other thing is, in teaching we learn. There's no doubt about that, and you guys probably better than anybody know, because you're teaching every day of the every hour of the day, teaching about new products, teaching about new concepts, and part of the reason you run Control Trends is to get this information. It's basically, if you teach, you have to be a full-time learner, and so we all my folks, all my contributing editors are in fact in that category, that they're all learning so much, and every time we try to put a topic out and then we have to actually speak to it, we say, oh God, I wonder, how does this really work, and what other people are doing it. And so you start researching the stuff, so you actually learn a whole bunch of stuff that they thought you knew before you went there to teach it. So
well said. Hey, you said a couple times about the education emergency, and it's individual, so we all are going through it. It's not quite that bad. But what's going on with the technical skills and stuff like that out there? Did you see any young people at CoreTech? Is it all mostly silver-haired executive types, or what did it look like in terms of the attendance of at CoreTech of young people, say under 30 years old? Is it there, or?
Oh yeah, there was probably, I think probably 30% were under 30. I would think. It was amazing. The other thing is, a lot of them were the presenters, a lot of the exhibitors. That's where the young people were, because they were selling IT solutions. The other one that I didn't mention, which made a big impact on me, was the immersive experience. And basically what this is a video wall, and we've all seen a video wall with a couple of in the bar with a bunch of flat screens. But once you tie this technology to the latest and greatest LED screens, you can actually have an experience that is just totally amazing, because you can have the wall of your lobby look like a window out to where you want it to be. It can be a picture of the Grand Canyon. It can be a picture, and the dimension, and so the whole idea of windows in buildings and windows in boardrooms, or having boardrooms that don't have windows but have a video wall, or have an immersive experience, as they call it, and you're just in there. They start feeding content to this, and the whole Jim and Howard and all those guys, they drank their own Kool-Aid. They basically, when they did their presentations on the stage, instead of, they had a PowerPoints, but the PowerPoints weren't PowerPoints. They were live videos of what was going on, and it was like they were right inside of it. If you take a look at some of the graphics from that, it's just totally amazing. So when he's talking to the guy at Google, the Google campus is rolling by him behind, and it's like immersive. You're right inside of it, and yet you can able to explain over there, you can see that and have a highlighted
you get cues from the actual physical presentation.
It's like PowerPoint on steroids. It's just amazing. But that whole thing, then what they find is now we want to have a little quiet time. We basically have a waterfall, and maybe even tone the screen down so it's kind of mute. The other thing that's happening is the windows. The windows are becoming naturally, you have to control the windows, you control the shading, and some of the new windows actually have vision. They actually have pictures on the windows, so you can actually, if it's a crappy day, we can turn it into a sunny day by pushing a button. Everything is Everything is a variable. Everything is virtual.
Well, it sounds like a scene out of Word. What was that movie where they Eric? And you told me about the artwork that he's got these masterful things where your paintings now hung in your walls. You can change them from this guy's.
Right.
Well, that's just the feed. Okay, that's the feed for the immersive experience.
No,
the other thing. Okay, the other thing that comes.
I want to say something. Okay, let me say something, guys. Settle the heck.
What do you
down.
think? This is your show or something?
Yes. Yes. So what I was going to say, guys, is this sounds an awful lot like virtual reality, and I'm going to swing around to a question for you, both you guys, in a second. So I have Ken and I have a friend, and he's kind of our mentor. He's our millennial mentor, and he is super big into virtual reality now, to the point you put these glasses on, and it's unbelievable. I've never done it, but he tracks these people. The people in the virtual reality world that are creating this think that that's going to be the new medium. It's going to be the new internet. You're going to walk around with glasses. So instead of putting all this stuff on the wall like you're talking about, you're just going to wear these glasses, and you're going to be able to communicate with people and see everybody and so on and so forth. So we could get to the point where you just save on your decorating costs, because you're just going to be wearing these glasses and interacting with everybody else. It does make so that is futuristic, but I want to swing it back, Ken, because this sounds like this is a harbinger of virtual reality coming into the buildings. And do you see this, eventually morphing into a virtual reality type thing?
Yeah, actually, there was a whole division for virtual reality. I didn't mention that one. Immersive experience was over here. Virtual reality was over there. The virtual reality where they saw the big play there, which I was quite impressed, is it is going to help us address our education emergency, because what we can now do is we can have our supermaster back, and we have this new apprentice that started yesterday, and he climbs up on the roof and finds the rooftop, and basically takes the panel off, and is basically got this big control wiring thing in there, and the guy is now signs on to him and says, okay, see the red wire, pluck that off, pull that out, put this controller in, that put the voltage there, okay, it looks like the such and such is gone, order in, take a picture of that, actually take a picture of the thing. So he is there, the apprentice is moving his hands and is moving his camera, because he's either got a body camera or in fact he's got augmented reality looking forward. So they were showing some of that. So that's old stuff. We used to do that. But anyway, that whole idea of just using some of these technologies it's just coming on us really quick.
Well, and I think that's such a great thing, Ken. I don't know that I told you, Kenny and I met Dave Lorenzini, the guy who invented Google Glasses. And there was a company that I interviewed in Tennessee, Lee Company, and this goes back 6 or 7 years. And they were using the Google Glasses type things. It wasn't Google, it was a version of that. And the reason they were doing it because they had their older guys that couldn't climb on the roof anymore. And, this company believed in taking care of their employees. So these guys would be back at headquarters, and they would be just doing exactly what you said. So you had to use for them. But here was the unintended positive consequence with that. Because typically on the residential side, the process would be somebody would go out, they'd see the problem, and then they would have to write a quote. They'd have to wait for the husband to come home, and maybe the next day or whatever, they would get around to calling back. But with these virtual glasses, they were actually able to take a video, email it to the husband at work or the wife at work, whoever was making that decision, and they would get an immediate okay to go for it. So they upped their close rate tremendously, and they also become a lot more efficient, because now you guys rolling the truck one time out there to see what needs to be done, and he's able to fix it, versus rolling it out, coming back, somebody has to call, close the sale, maybe they get it, maybe they don't. So I think speed seems to be the differentiator, right? And then also we get this education crisis like you're talking about, but something like this sort of mitigates that a little bit, doesn't it? Because you could have a less skilled person that's out in the field, and your skilled person's back at headquarters talking them through it.
Except what better way to learn than doing? We all learn by doing, eh?
Exactly.
So if in fact I become an extension of that master, and the master basically impinges his information on me, and if we become a good team, and the guy okay, good, that was great, you did that, and just we were able to communicate really well. When I said, put your hand there, you did that. If you kind of work as a team, then he's going to want to work with you.
Right.
And you then will move into the office. You'll be the new master.
Right. Well, not only that, you're creating a video library, right? So then eventually when Ken Sinclair does require as the master, now you got a video library, and now it's the guys out in the field, and he goes, yeah, it's such and such a unit. It's the same as here's the video for how to fix this. And now he's seeing his glasses or whatever. So, but hey, I want to shift gears real quick because we're about to run out of time. And I've been curious about something because, we've got the new generation coming up, and it seems like we got a lot of digital mentors. And Ken, I wanted to ask Ken Sinclair, who was your biggest mentor when you were coming up? I know it wasn't a computer, but who was it? And what did he or she teach you?
That's for you, Otto.
Most of the stuff I learned was back in the day when I was working was the DDC stuff, and of course that was growing up with these the upstart control companies like Reliable and Delta, and the founders of those companies. And basically, sort of, we were, the whole idea that we could just load a program into a panel was like amazing, but not the idea that we could load it over the network, because the networks hardly existed at those times. So most of the new stuff has been just a myriad of a whole bunch of people online. I think basically self-taught online, I would think is probably.
Well, it's interesting to me, and I'm just curious because it seems like, throughout the course of history, if you were lucky enough to get a good mentor or a good teacher, they had an influence. And then I think people that typically had that were also good mentees to other people, right? But
we had this problem that the concept that we flipped. When we grew up in the day, my best mentors, became the presidents of ASHRAE and the people that took me out of school and kind of moved me into the industry. But then what happened is I surpassed them because they were no longer useful to learn what I needed to learn. And then I had to go back down and start dealing with younger people that actually understood this stuff. Well, so it's a reversal of mentorship that occurs.
Right. No, agree with that. We've all talked about you should take a millennial to lunch. We've talked about it on the show before. Cool. Well, Ken, listen, we got HR coming up. That's going to be a big thing. The December issue is obviously going to be out December 1st, right? AutomatedBuildings.com. Anything else you want to impart to our audience before we hop off on this week's show with you?
Don't think so. Looking forward to HR, and basically the reaction from some of the stuff we did learn at CorTech. That was great. I think folks. I was actually encouraging folks that teach to stop and take some time and go learn something. Go somewhere where they don't normally go. And I think that was what CorTech was for me, is I don't normally go to CorTech. I have gone before, but it's not one of my agenda things. But when I looked at their program and their subject matter, they were all over this G5 and GBRS and all this and stuff. And I had just written this article, and I wondered how far out of touch I was. And I was a bit off, but I got some of the stuff right too, so I was pleased with that. It's just a learning experience. Everything I don't know if you guys find is I had to watch a YouTube on how to dim the lights in my new car, so to dim the dash lights. So,
but you're right about the YouTube though. That's it. I mean, that's my go-to now. But I don't know how to do something. I go to YouTube, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It's like the great educator, the great teacher. So.
Yeah, joke is the zillennials, you need to have a YouTube to unscrew a light bulb. And then it says, not so funny, don't unscrew light bulbs anymor.
Nice.
Well, I'll tell you, I had to, again, experience is the master. Like you were saying, Kevin, once you do it yourself and once you learn it, it's a little bit not spooky, but you just get intimidated by something and you can't do it right and you're embarrassed a little bit. But we have one of these chairs where it's a comfort chair. You sit in it, it's got the buttons on the side. We can fully extend it, to watch TV and watch football games. It's my favorite chair. When I call the end of the duty day, I go sit in this thing and watch TV. And my wife used it, and she somehow broke the power supply. She rolled the chair over, it smashed it. So call. It's under warranty. So we called the store, and they sent a tech out. He looks at it and says, "Well, I felt dumb because I didn't know what was wrong with it, but here he takes the chair on the side, and the power supply smashed. It's a little plastic dinky thing. So they're going to repair it under warranty, whatever. It's going to be 4 to 6 weeks." I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? So last night I get in a little sniffy argument with my wife saying, "Hey, what are we going to do with a stupid chair? We got people coming up for Thanksgiving, whatever." So I went on the internet, Googled it, and saw what the power supply looked like, got it in my hand, went on Amazon, did a cross-reference on it. It came this morning, put it in, problem's fixed.
Where'd it go, Ken?
But I would have never done that if I wasn't inspired by you guys and learn that damn thing. Put your head in there and get dirty. Let's go. Come on, get it fixed.
All right.
Survival in the new world. That's right. Yeah. Learning what kids. Yeah. The online. That's another thing. Is just the whole availability of you can get. Like you go to pick something up and they say, "Oh, you can't get that. You're going to have to get it online."
That's nuts. All right. Well, there we go, man. We got Ken Sinclair, Ken Nostradamus Sinclair, the great predictor who has got an unbelievable track record on control trends. If you want to know what's going to happen next, you just listen to Ken Sinclair. The December issue will be hitting automatedbuildings.com. But hey, don't wait till December 1st. Go back and check his November, his October, his September issue out. They're still relevant. Ken, thank you so much for taking time to be on the show. We appreciate you as always, my friend.
Okay, great.
I don't know about you. We could talk to Ken Sinclair forever, man. He is such a wealth of knowledge, man, and I love the conversations with him. I don't think I have enough storage capacity on my computer, my hard drive, to be able to get all the stuff that he knows. I'd have to get a room full of hard drives to do that. So, again, special thanks to Ken Sinclair. Ken can be checked out at automatedbuildings.com. And what else you thinking, buddy?
No, just congratulations again to Jim Young, Howard Berger, Lisa Woods, and the team at Realcomm, Ibicon, and Cortec. Because again, as we learned there, it's an enriching event. There's so much is happening at that point. You talk about the intersection of innovation and technology in the real estate industry, and that truly is the tip of the spear. And as Ken testified again, I mean, you got to get to these things to really see what's leading, what's happening. I mean, imagine going into that scenario. He said you go into a big important meeting. You're supposed to be representing the BAS and the HVAC world, and you're hearing about technologies that they're asking you questions about technologies that you don't even know what they are. So I mean, you really got to do your homework. And so, going back to that Siemens post we did last week, where we had the two guys, we had what were their names? We had Brian Marini of Twisted Pair Automation, but Siemens John Lester. That the whole thing, the snack style of podcasting. What a remarkable idea. And I wonder, I mean, that's what you need to do. You need to be able to go somewhere, get about 10 minutes and catch up on a particular subject.
Kenny, we can't do that. So, John Lester's got a great thing. So for you guys who are on an intellectual diet and want to eat light, John Lester's got a great podcast for you. But no, and I mean that in the very best sense of the word. You got short form, you got long form. And hey, speaking of that, man, special thanks and shout out to the king and queen of Silicon Valley, Therese Sullivan from Tritium and Josh Bradshaw from Visa. They gave us a little interpretation. They sent us a video, which we really appreciate. We posted on the site of sort of their take of Cortec, which I thought was really good. Some good insights there. And dude, I just got to tell you, man, it's Thanksgiving, man. So what are you doing for Thanksgiving?
Oh, we're looking forward to our family's coming home. So both of our daughters are going to be here.
And your granddaughter?
We retooled our family room there so that we can trap our 1-year-old granddaughter in there. She can't get outside the barriers, the couches, and whatever. My wife did a great job prior to the show. I'm glad you guys said get on. We're starting because I needed to get the heck out of it. I was working too hard. But it's just exciting. I love Thanksgiving's my favorite dinner. Ever since a kid, I used to help my mom make the turkey. We had a family of 11, so we actually had 2 turkeys, and
nice.
we'd make the stuffing and then do the different chores. And I was probably one of the few that didn't mind helping out because it was just, I knew that we were going to all take part in this and it was going to be an enjoyable dinner. And that's where I learned a little bit about cooking. So I can't wait. And football, it's going to be great football games, right? Atlanta's playing somebody, aren't they?
They are. They're playing the Saints on. We beat them like a drum here a couple of weeks ago, which was really good to see. So the Falcons. All right, this is kind of an interesting deal. I don't know whether you caught this story or not, because the Falcons were like 1-7, and they had a bye week. You know what they did? They put all the assistant coaches' name in the hat, and they drew and said, "Okay, now you're going to be the defensive backs coach. You're going to be this coach." So they just shook it up. So the wide receivers coach is now the defensive backs coach. Some other guy like the special teams coach is the defensive lines coach. I mean, it was all random. And they came out and they, up till the game they played 2 weeks ago, they had 6 sacks. They had 7 sacks against the Saints. They had 6 sacks last week. They've had like 6 or 7 turnovers. So it was just like they just completely shook it up. So it was like, you know, it is interesting. And I kind of wonder, you know, that might be a pretty good business theory if you're getting kind of stale. Because, I mean, to be a football coach, no matter what position you're coaching, you have to know the game and understand the game. Sure. But they just randomly shook it up, and they're getting great results.
Well, I'll tell you what, and then the funky game between Pittsburgh and Cleveland, and the brutality that they we watched on TV, where a guy takes the helmet off and tries to deliberately knock the other guy out with it. It's a new level of brutality that I don't know how the NFL is going to fix all that, but it was embarrassing. The whole thing, just what are you going to do? I mean, it used to be such a great sport. Now it's just getting trashy, and it's just it's all about me, and Antonio Brown still isn't playing. I can't understand that.
Yeah, I wonder how he's doing in class at that junior college he's going to now to get his degree.
I don't know, but you know what? He was the finest athlete I met in person. I mean, he was unbelievable. And I don't know. You know what they said, that there was a Pittsburgh. We have what they call the coach's corner here, and they have a lot of VIPs in the football world. Western Pennsylvania is very proud of its football, but Colbert from the Steelers was there, and he was the speaker, and he just said that, it's amazing what success does to certain people. Certain people, when they're successful, they become great leaders, and they take other people, they move a whole organization forward. And some people, when they're successful, that they don't know how to handle it, and and something strange happens, and there's no fix for it. Everybody has to go through their journeys in life, but it took everybody by surprise, and then the harder they tried to make it, make sense of everything and make things work, the worse it got.
Well, and that's where, I was talking with Ken Sinclair a little bit about the mentors, because, we all came up and somebody would take you under their wing and mentor you, and then you in turn would play it forward, mentor somebody else. But it seems like now that people are getting mentored digitally, right? YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe there is sort of that disconnection with, okay, this person helped me out, therefore I'm going to help somebody else out. So, but dude, well, listen, man, I tell you what, I've got some work to do. My son Axel is seeing how much stuff he can flush down the toilets, and I mean, so I've got to try and figure out what the hell he's putting in a couple of toilets here, because the plunger's not working. So I'll probably get on YouTube and find out, how to unclog a toilet your 4-year-old son is throwing half your house into. So we'll get busy with that.
You need a snake, baby. You need the snake.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I'll probably go get a snake. But, it is Thanksgiving, and, I just want to take a minute and acknowledge our Control Trends community and sort of let everybody know how thankful we are for you. This is, something Ken and I love doing. And part of the reason we love doing it is because we got a great community, and, it means so much to us. I don't think we ever go to a show that somebody didn't come up to us and introduce themselves and go, hey, man, I just want to let y'all listen to you guys. We appreciate you. So I want to say right back at you, we appreciate the Control Trends community. We appreciate this opportunity, and want to wish everybody a very, very happy, safe Thanksgiving.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I think
all right. Should we just go indeed on that one?
Yeah, indeed.
Indeed, Kenny Smyers. We'll probably be off next week, but we'll catch up with you the week after that. All right. So be safe out there.
Caught by a feeling, goes beyond the right.